Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar of Awareness, Discovery, and Control of Cloud Service Usage. All right, so to start off, my name is Rebecca, and I will be giving you a brief introduction and overview of today's topic. And then Allan Cahill, WARD's Head of Secure Identity and Information Solutions, will take over and explain to you about Cloud Shadow IT and the 3 stages on how to tackle this growing threat. Firstly, we really appreciate the fact that you could make it to today's seminar during your busy schedules, but like I mentioned to you over the emailers, it's worth attending. Our experts here have gathered a lot of insights and conducted a survey early this year, which made us discover that this topic needs to be addressed at the earliest. Please note that we do not want this to be a one-way stream, so this is a very interactive session, and if we have what we have right now are questions in between the presentation that we would like you to participate in. So please drop in your questions and answers as we go in the chat box to your right. If we can't answer them right now, we will get in touch with you directly after this session. So just to let you know, a recorded version of this webinar will be available after this session. Links to this webinar, our blog, and our white paper will be sent to you via email after the webinar. We still see a few people joining us right now. So for those of you just signing in, welcome to our webinar, Awareness, Discovery, and Control of Cloud Service Usage. All right, so before we start, we want to ask you guys a question. What is your company's approach to cloud services adoption? So we have 4 options there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the chat box to your right, you can just put in whichever number suits or where you think your company stand when it comes to their cloud services adoption. We'll give you a few seconds for you to answer. All right, that's perfect. So this is just to get a feel for those of you who are just attending. We just wanted to understand your relation and approach towards cloud service usage. So let's begin with an overview. Now, just to set the context, whether or not your organization is in the cloud, there is a good chance that your employees are. Now, we see 2 cases here to the right. Sorry, that's the next slide. We see 2 cases here to the right. Which is mainly what we're going to focus on in this presentation. How an employee chooses to use his personal Dropbox account, how an employee downloads an app that is free because he believes it's better. Now, don't get me wrong, the employee isn't doing this to harm your organization. He or she is just trying to do their job more efficiently. So the only thing is, at the end, the organization bears the consequence because of these kind of situations. Like what could happen is a malicious code can easily enter your network, or the fact that this can even affect your compliance with employees utilizing a cloud service without explicit approval. Now, here we see a graph. It shows a brief history of shadow IT methods taken from a blog done by software company SmartFire. It's so true because in the world we live in, consumers use the latest technology and they end up using the same in their office, which blurs the line between personal and business. Now, as Phil Hagen puts it, he believes that shadow IT sprouted from what users perceived as a culture of no on the part of IT organizations. So IT was seen as a roadblock to business, so people found a way around it. Now, to the right, we see we see a percentage here. Now, the survey was conducted earlier this year by us. It's called the Edition 2 of the Mapping Cybersecurity Landscape. The link to this white paper will be shared with you guys in an email after this. Out of 170 participants from this survey, 72% of senior decision makers believe that shadow IT was a growing issue. Now, what we believe is if the right assessments and controls are not put in place, there's a very good chance that your organization might tend to experience shadow IT risks and incidents in the future. Now, finally, before I hand it over to Allan, I'm just going to go through a few stats that we've taken from this Microsoft security blog. The blog's link is mentioned below too. Now, more than 80% of employees use unapproved SaaS apps. As discussed earlier, the consequences are as follows, where they invite unknown security risks, possible compliance violations, and leave organizations liable. Then we see an average of 17 cloud apps being used by employees, but many businesses have no visibility of what's going on within the app, whether these apps meet security, privacy, or any of the compliance requirements. Now, here's another one. On an average, an organization shares 13% of its files externally, of which 25% are shared publicly. Now, this file sharing can lead to an increase of data breaches and, again, compliance standards and legal regulations. Okay, the last shocking stat for today with regard to this topic, employees grant their personal accounts access to the organization's cloud storage in 91% of organizations. What does this lead to again? Identity breach and putting data privacy at risk. All right, now since we've had a reality check, let's find a solution to this problem. I'm going to hand this over to Allan now. Over to you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, my name is Allan Cahill, and over the next 20 minutes or so, I hope to give you a better understanding of the challenges and the potential risks associated with cloud shadow IT. I'm just looking on the GoToMeeting, I'm seeing a lot of callers dialing in. I know there's been some issues in connecting to the GoToMeeting through the web portal. We've seen some internal errors and stuff like that on the site that have caused some problems with people connecting directly. It seems to take 2 or 3 times. So if you're only dialing in and are not able to connect to the web portal, if you retry a couple of times, it's working. Sorry, there's a couple of people. I might just put everyone on mute for the time being, just so you can, hopefully everyone can still hear me. So as I said, if you just want to keep trying on the web portal, because as well as the slides we have here, I'm going to use a couple of demo slides and demo applications as well, just to give you some visibility of some of the test applications. Okay, so I suppose the way I'm going to tackle this in today's session is through 3 stages. Awareness, so let's make sure we understand what cloud shadow IT is, how and why it's becoming more and more a problem, and the issue it's causing. And then once we understand that, we want to focus on addressing the need to get visibility of whether this is an issue for your organization and what scale. And then once you have that evidence and information from a discovery, you can start to address the problem and give you the ability to regain control and enforce some layers of protection. And as I said, as I go through stages 2 and 3, I'll use a Microsoft tool that provides some cloud shadow IT services to give some demonstration about how you would go about tackling and addressing some of these issues. Before we jump into the awareness piece, another quick question here. Again, it's just to get a feel for the audience. For those of you who acknowledge that you're using cloud services and have adopted it, we just want to get a feel for what type of services your organization is using in the cloud, whether it's primarily SaaS applications, email collaboration, ERP. So if you want to give you your there. We have some echo there. There we go. So we had someone else dialing in there. So if you want to just through the chat screen, for those of you there, just some feedback on the types of cloud services categories that you're using, whether it's file sharing, email, collaboration, as Mark is putting in there, all of the above. Also appreciate those that are dialing in or not going to be able to input into the chat screen. Just be aware, if you are dialing in just on the phone and you don't have visibility, we will be recording this webinar and we'll share it afterwards, so you will have visibility of the slides and the demo as well. Great. Okay. Oh, okay. We'll keep going. So, what is shadow IT? And I suppose, why is it any different to the traditional shadow IT challenges and how we would traditionally have approached those problems? So, simply put, cloud shadow IT is undetected use of cloud services within your organization. And for the most part, those will be unauthorized or unmanaged services ones that your organization hasn't formally adopted. I suppose traditional shadow IT challenges revolve typically around our devices that we would have used within our organization, installation, managing licensing, managing hardware plugins, and we suppose over up until the early 2000s, that was how IT was controlled and limited to. And in recent times now, with the proliferation of cloud services, we're facing a new challenge and a new issue there with the fact that the detection and the prevention of cloud service use isn't addressed by those tools and services and controls that we typically use for traditional shadow IT. In most cases, you're not looking at any software installation. Your end users are just using a browser, and from an IT perspective, they're not seeing any difference to an end user experience or activity than they would for users just accessing websites. So that obviously addresses challenges there from the perspective of how to detect that use in order to start rolling around. Okay. So why is this arising, and why is it becoming such an extensive problem? Well, suppose, as I pointed out, the proliferation of cloud services as offerings in the market now has expanded so quickly, and with the types of service that are available, there's a huge array of benefits that are there for organizations and end users to quickly pick up on. And the business users and business entities within an organization are moving at a faster pace in terms of their demands than IT can actually operate at. Staff have their own productivity, mobility. IT, on the other hand, have responsibilities to ensure that services are being adopted properly in the most cost-effective manner, in a secure manner, and are being done in line with the company's own standards. And I suppose the outcome of that is that the business, because that can take time from IT to get through that flow, business users and departments, and especially where departments are giving more autonomy and their own budget, are able to essentially adopt services without any involvement of IT at all. So they are able to very quickly, very easily sign up to cloud services to meet their specific needs, improve their productivity, or it might even just be to solve what is a perceived internal blocker to enable them to do their day-to-day jobs. And this has given rise to obviously a range of issues from information security risks. So, predominantly cloud services are interacting and using our information. They're processing our data, storing it, or sharing information. So there's a risks arising from that, from questions that we can't easily ask. Where is our data? Who has access to it? What kind of data is up there in what services? And from a governance perspective, that's very much lacking. How can you monitor and control something that you don't know is being used and that you don't know even exists? From cost perspective, there's overspending, especially if departments have their own autonomy and budgets. Individual departments and could be using similar or duplicating on cloud services that are essentially fulfilling the same service, and could be making internal systems that are already there fulfilling an equal service, making it redundant. We've got over or underutilization with cloud service platforms that give extensive services and range of capabilities, and you might have departments or end users just signing up to those for one very specific niche offering and not making full use of value. And probably most important, especially in the kind of era we are now with data protection, is the potential cost from fines. Obviously, GDPR is a hot topic. Cloud shadow IT is what I see was a significant gap in the governance area of organizations that needs to be properly addressed and governance within an organization, make sure it doesn't lead to unnecessary data breaches. So we're getting some feedback there. I'm going to see if we can.
All gone quiet.
Okay, is everyone able to hear me still?
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry, we were getting feedback from one loop there. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll plow on with this here. So we just take a quick a use case here. We've got an employee working from home and needs access to information that's in their CRM that's only accessible within their network. They have no way of directly getting access to it from home. So they call a co-worker in the office, ask them if they could extract that information and send it over to them as quickly as possible. They need to get some work done. So that's no problem. Co-worker extracts the information, pulls it out into a file, and realizes then that they can't email that file to their coworker because of internal organization, email restrictions. The file is too big. They need to find a workaround. And the organization maybe doesn't have any external file sharing capabilities. So, the employee goes around and says, right, well, I'm going to solve this problem. I use an external, already a cloud service storage facility. I'm just going to put that file up onto my own personal account and share it out with my coworker, get them the information they need as quickly as possible. Problem solved, everyone's happy. I suppose, unfortunately for the organization, that identifies holes and gaps in the organization's governance and controls that raises concerns and questions. Where is their data? The inability to detect the fact that a cloud service is in use and isn't authorized, lack of visibility of the movement of that information from their network into the cloud. And then now it's out in the cloud, they've lost control of that in terms of who can access it, how's it being protected, and what kind of data and how sensitive is it in there. So before we jump into the discovery piece, just another quick question there to get your input on. Again, it's just kind of get a feel for the audience and where you're at in your own journey for cloud usage. Are you confident that you have total visibility of the your own organization's cloud usage? And 1 from 100% to 50% that you suspect there's some usage there, or 3 that you're completely in the dark. Okay, yeah, so most people kind of suspect that they have some visibility, but there are gaps there as well. Yeah. Okay, good. So we just jump in here. So I suppose, how does your organization attack a problem like cloud shadow IT? You need a way to detect and assess the traffic on your network to and from the cloud, determine what your users are doing within the cloud, the activity, what they're accessing, and what those transactions are for. Okay, so what benefit does that give you? If you can't say for sure, maybe you do, maybe you don't have a problem, how do you tackle that? This would be a great one for Schrodinger. We'll have a field day with this one. So it's a case of, until you can tell for sure and examine the problem and have information, you can't be confident whether or not you actually have a problem. Okay? So for the purpose of the discovery is to get the visibility of what's going on from your network with your external entities, with the cloud services, by your users, what's being used and from what extent. And as that information becomes available, you're going to be able to begin to understand what it's telling you. You can start to interpret that, to start answering key questions. What services are being used? By whom? For what purpose? Is there existing organizational alternatives? Or is this identifying gaps in organizational capabilities that you need to be able to address for your users? And then you can start identifying or planning a course of action, potentially for further cloud adoption, for services that need to be fulfilled, or maybe security awareness training to raise awareness within your staff about how cloud services usage can be risky to the organization if not done so properly, and also establishing more communications and open communications between your business entities and IT as to why these services are being adopted without the input of IT, and how there can be a closer relationship there to stop that happening in future. And this will lead you into the steps that you need to take then to give you the control and protection that you're looking to require, whether it's process-based training or technical solutions. And so the point being here is that having done the discovery and gathered the evidence, you now have the information you need to help justify and drive potential change and potential investment in solutions as well. So how do we get that transparency? Right now, if you asked someone within the IT department to tell you what's going on from your network into the cloud, it'd be very difficult for them to give you any meaningful outright information. I have a sample here of a log file from a proxy kind of firewall. Anyone who's on the call who has some background in networking and might be familiar with just the dump of information that gets put into these types of log files. Hopefully you see that on the screen there. So there's a huge amount of information being tracked and stored within your firewalls and logs, from the timestamps, IP addresses, transaction types, but it's it doesn't give you any meaningful data. It doesn't give you something that you can actually put your hand on and say, this type of traffic means something to me, and I can now start to make decisions based on that. Okay, so it's supposed to help us turn this type of information into something more meaningful, something we can understand. This is where the cloud access security broker services that have come sustained in the last couple of years have started to take effect, essentially to start shedding light on what this information is going through our network into the cloud, and start to enable us to understand that and give us the controls to protect and alert us about suspicious activity or activity we want to monitor. And essentially, these CASBs are sitting between our on-premise environments and our cloud infrastructure services, and they're acting as a gatekeeper. I've given us some examples here on the screen of some different providers. The CASB providers coming from a lot of different directions, from large enterprise organizations that you'll be very familiar with, but with different backgrounds, from firewalls, antivirus, hardware, software providers, and then specifically niche service providers that have come into the market specifically for this gap and this capability that organizations are looking for. And across the range, they're giving a range of capabilities from different perspectives, but at the core, they're all providing us with kind of a very specific set of requirements to give us visibility from our network of what's going on within our cloud, primarily using our proxies and firewalls. Sorry, there's questions popping in there. We'll address those as we go along. So basically give you visibility of what's going on in the cloud, starting with your own network traffic based on your firewalls and proxy logs. And then some of these CASB systems are also enabling direct integration with API connectors like Office 365, like Salesforce, like Dropbox, to give you direct integration and deep granular integration with these services to allow you to capture much more low-level activity of what's going on within your network, and as well as what's going on with users who are not on your network but using your cloud services. And I suppose the second part of that is providing you with elements of controls to assist you with your ongoing monitoring, detection, alerting, to help you extend the reach of your internal security policies into your cloud usage. So yeah, Alan just popped up there. How do you deal with laptops that are off the network? So it's a good question. So in terms of laptops that are off the network, if they're using cloud services that are authorized by the organization, and that you have these CASB tools which allow you to directly integrate with those services, then regardless of whether you're on the network or not, your activity within those cloud services like Dropbox, like Office 365, can be interacted and captured by these CASB tools. So they're capturing the fact that you're logging in from different locations, what type of activity you're doing with what type of files, and it just gives you that ability to have a low-level granular view from an administration and governance perspective of what your users are doing with those cloud services that you have in fact authorized and adopted. Yes, well, if they're using personal cloud storage accounts, obviously from an organization perspective, you can't track that once they're external, because they're on their own network, they're on their own internet connection. You cannot track, and you have, I suppose, as an organization, you have no authority to monitor someone's personal account. So this would typically be where you look to put in more security controls around the systems and data that you would be using within your organizations. So extending the security controls from the applications onto the data. So things like rights management, for example, on files, so that whether or not someone puts them into your cloud storage or personal account storage, there's traceability and actions that you can control because the files belong to the organization. And that tends to be a shift. That's a shift we're seeing in industry as well, is that you're not just reliant on the controls at an application level, you're reliant on the controls for users, identity, access, and the data as well. Okay, hopefully that's addressed some of that points there. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you an example here of a tenancy of, I'm just going to pull it over here. So as I said earlier on, I'm just going to use the Microsoft Cloud App Security as an example for the type of controls that CASB tools are providing. So this particular one can be purchased as an add-on to your Office 365 environments as an additional subscription, or as part of Microsoft's EMS, or Enterprise Mobility Suite licensing. So if you're subscribed or have this up and running, you'll be able to see it on the admin center of your Office 365. And what I've just done here is I have a kind of clean version of this particular subscription, just to give you a snapshot. So if you think back to the log file earlier on that we looked at, that just had meaningless kind of information of transactions and IP addresses that didn't really give us the same information, that exact log file we've driven into the Microsoft CASB tool, and this is the output. And as you can see here, we are presented straight away with a dashboard based on the information from that log, which is immediately more meaningful and more interactive than asking your IT guys on the network to monitor the firewall and scan through a whole lot of text files. So straight away you're getting more high-level stats that have some meaning. You're being given information about the number of apps on your network, the IP addresses using these cloud services, even down to the level of traffic going to and from your network from these cloud services. And I suppose how is Microsoft able to do this with a tool? What they've done essentially is created an app catalog on this service, and they're continually adding to this. I think in the region of 15 or 16,000 cloud services are currently known to them. And what they're doing is using the log information from your log files to map that transaction, that history, to known cloud services and start giving you actual meaningful data as to which services are being used from what IP addresses, even down to the level of which users on your network, if your firewalls or proxies are capturing that level of information. Okay, and this can be, you can use this tool on a snapshot basis to kind of upload and integrate with log files on an occasional basis, or you can have continuous integration where this is connected directly into your firewalls and proxies and pulling your log files on a regular basis to give you more up-to-date and accurate information. And the power behind this level of information is that on top of the information in the log file about what services you're using, Microsoft are built out information, background information about these services to make it more meaningful. So at a service level, they're giving you information about what type of service this is, what category does it fall into, what services they're providing to users, what is the background, domains, and they're also giving you a huge amount of information around the security controls and the security compliances that these services are adhering to. And at the high level, giving you quick security scoring. And this is kind of very useful information that at a snapshot very quickly gives you a meaningful view. If we go back here and say, well, based on that 2-day log file I uploaded into this tool, 150 cloud service applications were detected. And very quickly, if I say, well, I want to get a feel very quickly for applications that are very low scoring, something I can see here that an accounting and finance cloud service app with a rate scoring of 2 was being used, and I can start to drill down and start seeing more information about the service, and it arms me with information that I can use then to start having internal discussions within my organization to find out the background behind where these applications, the need for these applications have arisen from, what are they doing, why are they there, and you can start to work on getting answers to those questions that we would have had earlier on at the very start. What services are in use? Why are they fulfilling a business need? Should some of these services being adopted for a valid business reason? Or should we be putting more controls in place very quickly to try and prevent some of these as we see, the very insecure solutions being used at all? And there's different viewpoints that you can view from this that give you ways of interpreting the data and very quickly having different and meaningful conversations. So you can see here, we can look at the top IP addresses. I can filter by and organize my activity by traffic and very quickly see, well, what IP address is responsible for the high volume of interaction, uploads, downloads. And again, it gives me some very focused conversational points that I can then use to go and have internal discussions with my business departments, do due diligence to find out why this activity is happening and what service, how can I better understand why they're doing it, and is there alternatives for that service. Okay, so I'll just minimize those and go back to our slides. Okay, so before I jump into the control and protect, again, just another quick question for you to answer. It's quick, nicely yes or no. Do you have the capabilities and tools that allow you, I suppose, you as an organization to monitor and control your users' cloud usage? Nice, yes, no. No. I think we're getting a... Oh, we have one yes. Thanks, Pat. And we have a majority no. Okay. Okay, good. I think I think for general conversation we have with organizations, that does tend to be the view, is that you have a few organizations that have some capabilities, but on the common, most don't. Okay. So now that you've established, or you've done a discovery phase and you've established some visibility of the cloud usage on your network or out in the cloud, whether it's sanctioned or not, the next step is for you to be able to apply the appropriate controls so you can start assisting your IT and organization in managing the ongoing risk and protecting your users and data in their transactions in the cloud. So you may potentially have found a culture of unauthorized cloud usage within your organization, and also potentially as a result of the due diligence and internal discussions, found potential capabilities and gaps that your organization is missing that these cloud services are potentially filling. So for example, just so your organization has an approved cloud service file sharing capability, there's a key question there: do you have the ability to detect or be alerted to suspicious activity or unauthorized activity within that service? So this goes past just detecting the fact that someone is using a cloud service and that you know you have an authorized cloud service in use. It's now, how deep is your control and governance over those cloud services to allow you to do ongoing monitoring, detection, protection. So this brings us back to the CASB services and providers again, and the features that they're helping to implement. And it's across a wide range here, again, different providers coming from different angles. So we have access controls, so giving us the ability to monitor our user activity within these cloud services, and giving us the ability to put controls in place to enforce the policies about the access types we want to allow and the activity which we want to be alerted to that's maybe in breach of our security policies. You look at compliance there, using the security controls to enforce the standards, regulatory requirements that you have, whether it's ISO, GDPR, industry-specific standards, and you want to make sure that you can provide evidence that you're in adherence to those and that you know when breaches are occurring. Data loss protection, that you can detect if your data or accounts are being compromised. Just because someone is downloading information with a valid account doesn't mean they should be doing so. So if there's unusual activity like a sudden large download of information, you want to have the ability to be able to alert it to that, so you can start doing some investigation and potentially react and respond. I won't go through the whole list. It takes probably data sharing again. Again, that's probably a common one with DLP, is the monitoring of the sharing activity to help you identify unwanted activity, such as being able to detect highly sensitive classifications of information that are being shared in an inappropriate fashion that, again, are in violation of your security policies. And even, I suppose, even when we look at tools like Microsoft's CAS or the CASBs and giving us that initial discovery, that's only a snapshot in time. I think one of the things we need to remind ourselves of is, we do a snapshot in time, we get a visibility of what our cloud service usage is. We need to continue monitoring and doing discovery in order to make sure you continue to do the sustained control and keep your retain your compliance. So having done your initial cloud discovery and start putting in your controls, this needs to be something that continues on an ongoing basis. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over to the Microsoft CAS tool again, just as to show some further information. This time I'm using a tenancy that is linked to an Office 365 environment that has a lot more activity, a lot more users, and the CAS tool itself has been configured and integrated at a deeper level than the one I showed earlier, just to give you the idea of the level of information that these types of CASB tools can give you and the types of controls they allow you to put in place. So you can see very quickly with this integrated platform, I'm now getting a lot more information presented to me with regards to alerts, policies I have in place by severity, and the types of violations that are occurring based on activity, based on content, and allowing me to, giving me kind of real-time, real information activity on this. And with the CAS tool, essentially, one of the good things here is the ability for it to integrate with other cloud service applications. So in this particular case, I've just integrated with our Office 365 tenancy, but the tool also has the capability, and something Microsoft are working on an ongoing basis, is to extend the partners that they're dealing with. So we have Amazon AWS, we have Dropbox. So the idea here being, you have authorized systems and services in use, and through the connectors into CAS, this allows you to get more granular control and granular visibility of what users are doing with those authorized applications, even when they're not on your network. Then I jump back to the activity log here. You can quickly get a snapshot of the type of real-time activity logging that is coming through Office 365 into CAS. And this is not information that's coming through the firewall logs. This is something that's coming through the real-time integration. So now you're actually getting information about which users are performing the activities, what applications they're doing, the external IP addresses, their location. And this is, this gives you a much more low-level granular view that you can use to start putting policies and controls in place. And the CAS tool here has a range of templates for the types of policies that you want to be able to put in place. Like, we touched on them there: data loss protection, configuration control, access controls. And there's kind of templated these policy types based on a starting point, based on severity. And you can use these then to create your own very specific policies that are defined to meet your specific security policy needs, configured the way you want them to. So I'll look at a couple of the policies set up here. You can see we've defined a few around a couple of the different control types. So DLP, compliance, so detecting logins from risky IP addresses, a mass download by a single user, a file containing PCI. We can jump into these then and see instances of where these policies essentially have been breached. And again, we can drill down to this information to give us more meaningful context to what's happened behind the scenes. What file has been shared in this particular case, by whom, who's been contributing to it, and get a full history of that. We jump into we jump back here to, sorry, I'll just jump back to the templates and give you a quick example. For example, if we were to look at the types of controls when we create these templates. So not only are we setting the severity, the category of the policies we want to define, and the filters by which we want to analyze and interpret the information, we also have additional options here as to what happens when these are breached. At a very minimum, we're looking at alerting here based on the severity, so a quick email or text message. And there's actually a new feature that's coming into effect very shortly. It's in preview at the moment, which is the ability to be able to check a box here as well to say, immediately sign out the user who is being responsible for the violation of that policy. So that can be a very appropriate reaction to something that's considered a high severity breach, that you immediately take a proactive response rather than waiting to do an investigation. And we just have a look at some of the alert types here that come in based on this tendency and the type of activity. So like that, we can look at some of these ones here. We just had a look there. Again, as we're saying here, you can see the information with the file, the user, the application that was involved. You get a low-level breakdown of the activity relating to that file from when it was originally uploaded, who it's being shared. So you can quickly see here that this particular user created an anonymous link for this file, and it's since been downloaded by someone who wasn't in any way registered or linked to your tenancy. So straight away, that's highlighting potential data breach and gaps in your governance and controls that you need to address. And it gives you, we have the ability then to be able to proactively take action based on the user of the file. We can require the user to sign in again. If we believe the account has been compromised, we can suspend the user. If we believe that they're doing something that's in aversion to our policies, and we can also take actions at a file level to a point where, I'll just open this out. Apologies about the file here. So you can see here we have further actions where we can put the file in quarantine. So this is a preview option with this at the moment. Again, so it allows us to very quickly take action against a particular file that we potentially believe has been shared inappropriately, and until we can do our further due diligence and investigation, we can at least take some proactive activity in the meantime and quarantine the file. Okay. I'm going to close it down. So if we jump back, just very quickly, if we jump back to our use case that we had earlier on, this, I suppose that highlights with some of these CASB tools the ability where at some of these steps during the process, an organization with the right controls in place would have had the capabilities to have been alerted to the fact that potential sensitive information was being shared or leaving their network, that they would have had visibility of the use of unsanctioned applications, and as well they would potentially have controls in place to allow them to react and respond to a breach of their security policies by reclaiming the file, quarantining a user or suspending the file and activity as well. So where to next? So this is where the area we're working in at the moment with customers is that we're assisting our customers with the next steps in their cloud shadow IT, depending on where they are in that kind of phase of awareness, discovery, control, and adoption of cloud services. So we're helping customers in terms of that initial discovery phase to determine the scale of cloud shadow IT within their organization and get a feel for that scale and how they start tackling that. Secure cloud adoption. So for organizations that are either dipping their toe in and haven't yet to really adopt any cloud services, or for those that are already in there but maybe not in a structured manner and want some assistance in terms of how they would do so in a more structured roadmap and a secured approach. We're helping them in that roadmap and define that the best approach to their cloud service adoption and the services and the secure models that would be right for them. And also, we suppose we deliver some specific security reviews and audits for specific vendor applications for those organizations that have already established cloud service usage, but maybe they've got some concerns or gaps that they've identified in terms of the use of those services and their own policies, and they're looking for some assistance in how to better configure and lock down those services to meet their needs. And that's it from us. Unless there's any more questions from Rebecca and myself, thanks for joining us today and giving us your time. I hope you found the session useful and it helped answer some questions, or at least move you along your own consideration of where you want to do and what you want to do next. If you have any questions for us, we have some contact details there in the form. You can email us at cloud@ward.ie. We have our social media links there, so please, my own LinkedIn profile is there. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd only love to keep talking about this for another hour, by all means. And we have a number of blogs and white papers, as Rebecca referred to earlier on, that we've published recently, and this recording as well has been made. So for those of you who register to the website, we have your contact details. We will send out an email to everyone with that additional information, with the recording and the blogs. So again, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your attendance, and have a good day. Thank you very much.